Thanks, everybody. Um, jump in here. So, first off, just kind of formally announce that I think we sent it out, but pretty excited to acquire Spencer Howard, Kevin Gowdy, and Josh Gessner, three right-handed pitchers, in a deal for three right-handed pitchers: Kyle Gibson, Ian Kennedy, and Hans Kraus. I want to wish Gibby and Ian and Hans the best with Philadelphia. Three tremendous individuals and really great stories on each of their part. Great individual stories and really kind of cool organizational success stories in each one. When you look at kind of how they were acquired and where they were even 12 months ago. Gibby when he signed and obviously has had a great season being an all-star. Major league staff, our medical team's done an unbelievable job there. Ian, from when he joined us as a non-rostered invite and became our closer in the season he's had, and Hans, a top draft pick. Our scouts, our development staff's done a great job. They're coming back off the elbow surgery and reestablishing himself this year in Frisco. So, really an organizational success story that those three guys represent. And Spencer Howard, a pitcher that we've liked for quite some time, one of the top young right-handed starters in the game. As a lot of guys do, he's hit a little bit of a speed bump in the big leagues and working through that, and we quite frankly looked at that as an opportunity to get him. I think if he was having immediate success, he probably wouldn't have been available. So we're excited about that opportunity and excited to have him come here and work with Doug and Brendan, our pitching coaches, and continue to advance his career. And then Gowdy and Gessner. Gowdy will go to a Hickory. Gessner right now is in a complex league, and he'll start there for us, and then likely get out pitching. But three really, really good arms, good people. We're excited to get to know them, and overall just excited about what we were able to do in terms of adding really seven really intriguing young players to our organization. I think moves us forward and in terms of what we've been trying to do in a rebuild and accumulating talent that we think is going to help us win championships. So real group effort upstairs and out in the field. Our scouts have been all over the place. The guys in the office are unbelievably prepared. A lot of conversations. It was fun. It was quick, and happy to answer your questions.
Okay, questions, please. We'll start with Levi.
Some of the initial reaction we writers at least saw from fans is that as you guys are rebuilding, to trade away a prospect of the stature of Hans Kraus was maybe a bit confusing for them. Can you sort of fill us in on some of the strategy that went into deciding who somebody that you could part with?
Sure. So, on the surface, we did not want to part with Hans. That was not something we set out to do. He's one of a number of young players I got asked about in a variety of conversations here. We talked about the depth in our farm system. We feel that way. It's been some of the other industry publications and our counterparts, other clubs, I think, kind of verify that and feel the same way. One of the things that we discussed as a goal here was kind of to consolidate that talent if possible into guys that were either closer or probably more importantly we felt had a little more potential impact in what their abilities might allow them to do in time, and that's really what it came down to. We would not have been able to access Howard in particular, and certainly not this package of these three pitchers if we were not willing to include a prospect of Hans' caliber in the deal.
On Howard, I think there's been some concern of late that his velocity has maybe dropped in the last year or two, and I was curious what your scouts and maybe medicals that picked up on that.
Yeah, so we did a pretty thorough medical review here after the deal was agreed upon, but there's information out there beforehand, and did a lot of background work. He's had some small things over the years. Most recently, he's actually dealing with a little bit of a blister now. But overall, we're comfortable with what we've seen, and you know, the top end velocity we've seen recently. I think it's important to remember this is coming off of the pandemic season. It's a guy that kind of got up quickly through the minor leagues, and it's not unusual for young pitchers in particular, but young players period, to have some challenges in their first taste of the big leagues. So if not for some of those things you'd mentioned, Levi, he's pitching for Philadelphia right now, and we wouldn't have this opportunity. So again, we viewed it as kind of a buying opportunity, not as red flags. We're really excited to have him and get our arms around him. Looking forward to meeting him and helping him along his career here.
Okay, let's go to Jeff.
Is because of the blister, is Howard an IL candidate, or is he going to pitch for you guys next turn through the rotation?
So we're going to bring him in here. We haven't had a chance to speak with him just yet. Philadelphia did talk with his agent a little bit, and we're going to get him on the phone here and talk with him. But we're going to fly him in, hopefully have him in here tomorrow, and sit down and discuss that, have our medical staff, take a look at his finger. Our understanding is that it's okay and he can continue to pitch. We want to make sure our medical staff feels good about that. And if they do, then we'll sit down and kind of work through a plan and have him pitch up here as part of the team, and let our staff continue to work with him.
Are his innings something that need to be monitored based on 2020?
A little bit. I mean, he has had higher workloads in I think it was 120 or 130 innings prior to missing a little time in 19, and I think he's on a good pace right now. So assuming that the blister's okay, he's got some innings in him. We're comfortable letting him pitch.
And then, what's his ceiling? What based on the stuff and the scanner reports I've read, it sounds like he's a top of the rotation guy, maybe.
Yeah, it's a tough label to put on somebody. He has some of the characteristics that you like to see in pitchers that can succeed and have that type of upside. But I think ultimately we want to let him pitch and kind of figure that out. But we think he can be a true starter, carry innings, pitch with a power repertoire, and be very successful for us.
Thank you.
Chris.
This is a two-part question, and this could be for either one of you. With this trade deadline and the moves you guys made, do you feel like you achieved any internal goals that you guys had for what is either the plan for the rest of the season or just a long-term plan in general?
I mean, I think the biggest piece there, Chris, is in a rebuilding year, we added 7 players that are going to be part of this organization, or can be part of this organization for a long time, and guys that have a combination of talent, makeup, and character, and performance. And so that piece of it's very exciting. We think we've significantly improved our long-term ability to win by making these moves.
Did you guys have any deals that were close that just didn't get done, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean we did. I mean we we had a variety of conversations. I mean, I think that it was most clear to us that kind of the veterans towards the end of their contractual control made the most sense to discuss, and there was a pretty good market because of the year these guys had between Joey and Kyle and Ian. There were some other players that we got approached about. We had discussions. We made a number of overtures on some other players. Most of whom I don't think were moved, just because we weren't really in the market for anybody who was going to be a free agent coming up. But there were some other deals that were pretty appealing that for one reason or another didn't come together either on our end or the other side. But I do think there was some good dialogue, information that was exchanged, and it might lead to some things down the line.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Evan?
John, when you use the word consolidate, talking about talent, is that reference to the 40-man roster crunch that would probably occur after the season?
I mean, that's part of it, Evan. Yeah, I guess I was meaning more in terms of, we were very open to the idea of kind of trading, from a position of strength in our depth to acquire the best quality that we could.
You guys have gone through so much as every club has over the last month, but if you look at the long range and you look at the long term, and maybe if both of you guys want to address this, to this point it seems like a line of demarcation, kind of whatever happens next month happens. What kind of progress has this club made towards its ultimate long-term goal here this year?
Started.
Well, I mean, I'm going to start with what we just talked about, and I think the talent base in the organization, that when I say that, I don't mean to leave out the fact we just traded some really talented players, but the long-term talent base of this organization, meaningfully was elevated here, and so I mean that's a big one, both with the draft and with these deals. And I think CY's joining the organization. He's still in the process of kind of making his own personal notes and kind of understanding and evaluating how we do things and what we do. And in some areas we've already made some adjustments, and others we may in the future. And I think that's an important piece. The relationships that he's developing and building in the organization will impact the organization for a long time to come. Those are two pretty big ones in my mind. See why?
No, I think just to expand on what JD said, Evan, I think that if you look at most successful organizations, as they start their window to win, they have a stockpiled minor league system, and I think that that's what we're building right here. We've infused a lot of talent into our minor league system over the past few weeks, and I think we've accomplished that again with our moves here at the deadline, and I think it's an important part of building a successful winning window to win, and I'm excited about what we've done.
And I guess just the second part of that for either of you guys would be on the field part, the evaluation of the on the field part to this point. Do you feel like you've gotten answers? Because it feels like the next 2 months, are going to be a lot about auditions for guys in the short term.
Well, I think, Evan, at the big league level certainly, and throughout the minor league system, the evaluations continue. I mean, it's a long season, and you want to give these guys exposure to a full major league season and see how they handle it and how they perform. And it's an important part of this year. So there's still a lot of baseball left to play, and we certainly expect to see these guys who have a great opportunity right now to really establish themselves finish strong here.
Thank you.
Kevin?
John, you've been reluctant to use the R word up until recently, and now you're saying rebuild quite a bit. I'm wondering if that reflects a change in your thinking about the organization and where it stands. And the second part of that is, do you regret now maybe not going all in on a rebuild sooner?
Yeah, so the reason I didn't really use that term in the past, Kevin, because we weren't really, committed to it, quite frankly. And I think we've made a pretty clear commitment to that, this past off season and how we've operated since. And listen, we discussed prior to this year the merits of doing it sooner. For a variety of reasons, we didn't choose that path. And to answer your question, had we gone down that path, we probably would have been. Had we gone down that path sooner, we probably would have been further along at this point. But there were valid reasons that were those decisions were based upon at that time. That I think this where we are right now, like CY said, we feel we're building a really strong farm system that teams generally don't win at the major league level without starting there first. And so, we feel like we've made progress there.
So, I guess my question would be, the follow-up to that is that you said that for a variety of reasons y'all decided not to do that. Were those driven by economic factors? Were they driven by talent evaluation at the time? What can you be a little more specific about that?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that and kind of in a review there, but both. I would say there were a variety of factors that from a variety of areas that played into those decisions.
Thank you, John.
Okay, let's go to Stephen.
John, see why I kind of addressed this a second ago about kind of looking ahead, but it's the same kind of question I asked you the other day. If you don't want to answer until after the deadline, what exactly do you want to see? I know you want to evaluate, but what do you want to see from this team in the next couple months till the end of the season with what you have at the majors?
Well, I'm excited to see guys that really have nothing to lose to go out there and just play free. Play free, have fun. They are competing to win. They're also competing for jobs moving forward. I want to see, the trade deadline is a huge distraction. Especially when you're, in the position that we're in, and you're, quote unquote sellers. And rumors are on and TV's on, and that's now in the past. And there's really all we have ahead of us is baseball. So I'm excited to see guys play free, play with energy, get out there and get after it. I'm excited to see some of our young players that are in consideration to come up and join the club. Have them continue to compete for those spots. We do have some plans for some in the system promotions here over the next couple weeks. That we're still discussing those. And potentially up to the big leagues as well for some of our deserving young players. So those are kind of the main themes that we're looking at.
And Chris, a minute ago was talking about obviously the new experience you're kind of getting to know people and all that and getting to know the process. What was this process like for you, Chris, this first time as a GM role? And obviously you got to trade a former teammate who you had brought here this spring.
Yeah, this is it's I'd say more than anything probably full of mixed emotions. I certainly it's never fun trading franchise players like Joey Gallo. That has not been a fun experience, but I sort of reflect back on really the experiences in the 6 months or 8 months I've been here, getting to know a lot of these players from Gibby to Joey, and really appreciating them first as people, but also their leadership in the clubhouse and what they have said upon exiting in terms of their belief in what we're doing, what we're building here, the people we have, and how we're going about it. It's really reinforced a lot of the things that I knew existed, and it gets me excited about the future, but those aren't fun conversations. And then with Ian specifically, Ian and I are teammates. We've been friends. It was, I think, a great opportunity for Ian, and I think it's really a great tribute to our coaches, to Ian, to our medical group, everybody that really helped him excel in his time here. Ian accomplished everything that we could have envisioned him doing, and we had this, had to make a tough decision to trade him today. But in the end, I think that it's to JD's first point today. Really, it shows to some degree the success of our group and what we've done. In terms of getting the best out of some of these guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Stefan.
Guys, how much did Gibson's struggles recently weaken his value?
Yeah, it's hard to say, Steph. I mean, we had a lot of teams interested in him. I mean, he was one of the best starting pitchers in the league this year. That being said, I just haven't seen it over the years. I do think there is a level of recency bias, for lack of a better term, that the what have you done for me lately? Regardless of whether somebody like Gibby goes out and throws a shutout or gives up 5 runs, you know what he's capable of the next time out. And you're gonna get professional outings, and he's gonna keep you in every game. And at the end of the day, I think teams knew that, and it didn't have a big impact on it. But it is always interesting to see the phone calls. The phone kind of lights up after a good week, and it's a little slower after a guy has a little slower week. Ultimately, I think teams know what these players are capable of based on their track records.
Also, once you make the Gallo move, does that weaken your leverage with somebody like Gibson and Kennedy? If clubs know you're in dealing mode?
No, they knew. I mean, we're in last place. Look at the standings. I think it's not a secret, and we were very open with teams about it. In fact, we came close to a deal with Kyle last week that we thought had a real chance of going through, and it ended up not. But so it wasn't necessarily. It didn't have to be in the order that it was done. But we were very open. I mean, that's our style. Is we're going to be transparent and let teams know what our goals are, and I think that's the best way to try to find matches.
Thanks, John.
Okay, I'll take a few follow-ups, and we'll start with Jeff.
You talked about the promotions that could be coming to the major leagues. What's your stance on let's say on the AA team, letting them stay and compete and try to win a championship, grow together as a team, versus maybe getting some of these guys' feet wet this year in preparation for next year?
I'll take it.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I think it's something that we certainly take into consideration. Learning to win is important, and we won a champion. We want our minor leaguers to experience that. It's important that they grow together, that they learn to win. That said, I think that there are players throughout the organization at all levels that are going to earn promotions. So, there's some that will remain there, and our expectation is that they do expect to win championships, because we want that to be the expectation when they get to the major leagues. So it is an important part of development. It is real, and it does factor in to some degree.
Okay, and then how much better is the farm system than it was before the season? Like, and not just because of these trades, but you've seen guys like Bubba Thompson rebound, Cole Reagans, for instance, rebound. So just what is the overall thought? I think before the season everybody was like, yeah, there's a lot of depth, but it seems like now there might be more to the depth.
Go ahead.
I mean, we feel that way, and really proud of our coaches and performance group in the minor leagues. I mean, this group has worked really hard. You see some of the steps that Bubba Thompson, Jeff, to use your example, or Dustin Harris, who is a guy we're just kind of getting to know, or Cunha, or even Pozo. A great example of a guy that had come up through our system, had briefly was out this year. We brought back, and has taken off, and just our group's done a really good job there. The Nick Snyders and Cole Reagan's a great example, and Latz and Alexi and Hans Krause a great example. So really proud of the work our group has done, and I think it's being recognized just in the level of interest we get in our players.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we'll take these last two. Evan.
Hey, just kind of go back on what I was asking before, but to give you guys open forum here, right? It's not an easy time to go through this. It's not an easy time to lose or to trade pieces. How do you demonstrate or quantify to your fans that, without putting any artificial timelines on things, that hey, we are getting better, that we are taking steps towards our long-term goal, tangible steps?
Well, Evan, I think that it's hard to see. I think to some degree at the major league level, based on the wins and loss column, certainly that resonates with me. Our fans deserve a winning team, and our intent is to do that. But it does these things do take a little bit of time. I think to Jeff's last question regarding the depth of our minor league system, we're starting to see some guys kind of pop from that depth. It's pretty exciting as we get the interest. We hear the interest throughout the league at times like this. So, I think it's an important part for us to continue with stay the course with our player development, continue to push these guys to get better. Our player development side's done a great job. Our coaches have done a great job. I think the culture is in place, and we are creating winning expectations. I think that these things sometimes materialize a little bit quicker than people expect or think. Certainly, that's a tough thing to say at moments like this where we've had a week of really trading from our major league team to add to our minor league depth. That said, I think we're in a pretty good position moving forward in a lot of ways, and that's exciting. What the timeline is, I can't make promises in terms of that, but I can promise that there is talent on the way.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, last one. Back to Kevin.
Okay, Evan didn't want to use any artificial deadlines, John, but I'm going to do just that. We have kind of assumed all along that 2023 would be a time for the Rangers to be competitive again. Would you say that seemed reasonable? Does that sound like a time when y'all might be an organization ready to compete?
Kevin, I do think that's reasonable. We've obviously got a lot of work to do that, but the two we touched on this a little bit the other day. There's two basic platforms that a team can build off of, right? One is having just a foundation of young talent that gives you a ton of options. Both they can play for you, they can be attractive to other clubs. They provide competition for each other and create a winning atmosphere. And the other is to have the financial ability, the wherewithal to compete and both extend your own and sign or trade for players making decent money. And we're a large media market. We've got this great new building. We have an ownership group that wants to win, and we have very little in the way of financial obligations moving forward in terms of our payroll. So, those two things combined, we're going to be smart about how we allocate those resources, but it does provide us with a lot of options, and that's our task, as you just laid out. That now that we have these two kind of unique assets in the two kind of currencies of the game, so to speak, like we need to put it together and start building on it.